full end. And last night, I'm sure you followed the press briefing by the president of the ECOWAS Commission, and you had an opportunity to ask him questions, and he provided some quite detailed answers. We want to thank you all for the support and the cooperation in helping Ghana and the President of the Republic of Ghana discharge Ghana's obligations and his obligations at ECOWAS. We start our week with two briefs. One from the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, and the other from the Ghana Statistical Service. Now, the Ghana Investment Promotion Center is responsible for, among other things, stimulating and helping onboard foreign direct investments into the Ghanaian jurisdiction. They've been doing a lot of work over the years. I think a few weeks ago I shared with you a brief from their offices that suggested that in the year 2020 they did nearly $3 billion worth of foreign direct investment into the Ghanaian jurisdiction. And we tried to get a hint of what it means for you and I sitting at home. This morning, or this afternoon, the Chief Executive, Mr. Yofi Grant, is here with us. He's also here with Mr. Kwesi Ajiman, who is the Chief Executive of the Ghana Tourism Authority, the Director of Diaspora Affairs, Office of the President, Akwesi Ewua Abebio, Head Diaspora Investment Desk, JIPC, Marina Bansa, and they are here to outline for our benefit some of the successes that the Ghana Investment Promotion Center has chalked over the years, and in particular in recent years. That's number one. Two, what they are looking forward to doing in 2021. Last year, as I mentioned, nearly $3 billion in a COVID year worth of foreign direct investments. This year they have started pretty well, but they also have a forecast of what they are looking or intending to do this year. But most importantly, what do all of those numbers mean to you and I and the Ghanaian economy? He will spend some time speaking on this. And then there's a Diaspora and Investment Summit that they are just about to kick off, and it is critical because, among other things, a lot of the FDIs that come in are owned by other nations and other nationalities. And it is important to encourage Ghanaians and members of the Ghanaian and African diaspora to participate in the FDI opportunities that are being opened up back home. So, as part of his brief, he will tell us some more about the Diaspora Investment Summit, which would also augment the flows and deepen the involvement of Ghanaians and other diasporans. I pray you to take particular attention to the numbers, and like we try to do, validate the numbers that are put out here and see what it means to all of us. The second is by the Ghana Statistical Service. I hope you know by now that the big date we have in mind is the 27th of June. 27th of June is a very big day here in Ghana. 27th of June. June the 27th. Very big day. And it's the day on which we mark what we call Census Night. And after the 27th of June, there will be what they call enumeration. But prior to the 27th of June, I'm sure you've seen videos of people in light blue vests going around doing something they call chalking and listing. Chalking and listing. What is that? How is it going so far? How does that affect the 27th of June? What is your responsibility and my responsibility in the 27th of June and the days afterwards in that agenda for that particular day? Professor Enim, who is the government statistician, will join us with a brief to that effect. So if we're ready, I want to invite to the podium Mr. Reginald Yofi Grant, also known as Shea Grant. Should I mention the other names? He has a brief on the GIPC, what they've done over the years, what they did last year, what they are hoping to do this year. Most importantly, what it means for all of us, and then the Diaspora and Investment Summit and why it is important. Mr. Grant, you are in your hands.
Good afternoon to you all, and it's indeed my pleasure to be here. I take the opportunity to wish all fathers here a happy Father's Day, and let's keep up to our great responsibilities of making things happen. But indeed, foreign direct investment in the equation of every country's economy is very important, in the sense that it actually brings to that economy three very important parts in development. First, it brings physical capital, that is actual cash invested in the economy. It brings about state-of-the-art management and technical development, but also it bridges cultures. And so for every country, foreign direct investment is recognized as very important in its own economic development, but also sociocultural development. And I dare say that every country in the world looks for foreign direct investment. I can give you some anecdotal stories which are a bit amusing. We went to an investment conference or show in Dubai, and we had a very impressive stand. The Ghana stand was very nice because it was full of color, etc., etc. And then I looked 2 stands away from us was the actual Dubai stand, which was like a house in the exhibition center. It was very huge, and they had about 20 people all there canvassing for foreign direct investment. But we went there also going to canvass for foreign direct investments from the Emirates. So it just tells you how important it is. And normally when you go to these events, you see countries from all over the world, including China, being present to solicit or look or market for foreign direct investments. And as you might well know, China is probably one of the largest recipients of foreign direct investments, but also one of the largest exporters of foreign direct investment. In Ghana, I dare say that over the past few years, we have upped our game and we are seeing more attractiveness in the economy. Indeed, I dare say that since 2017, when Ghana's economy grew by 8.1%, and through to 2019, you had an average growth rate of 7%. It symbolized a country that is really walking the talk and doing the things that it has to do, and became one of the fastest growing economies in the world. Accordingly, FDI also impressively grew. And in 2017, total FDI was in the region of $4.9 billion, and dropped marginally in consonance with a drop in global foreign direct investment flows in 2018 to $3.54 billion. And in 2019, once again, further to drops in foreign FDI across the world, it dropped to 1.01 billion. But the interesting thing is, despite COVID and the pandemic and the severe disruption in supply chains and the negative impact on many global economies, in 2020, Ghana saw an increase in foreign direct investment to $2.65 billion. And our research shows that this is due to the confidence that most investors have in Ghana, the fact that Ghana showed clarity in its future plans. Secondly, the work of the president since he took over in 2017 has been very instructive in marketing Ghana and making sure that Ghana is on the map. And our work at GIPC is always to follow up with him and then make sure that when he talks, we actually put that talk into action. And I'm happy to say that it has yielded significant results. And today we see quite a number of international brands choosing Ghana as where they should be. For example, Twitter have indicated that Ghana is going to be the original headquarters. We've seen the Google artificial intelligence headquarters now positioned in Accra. We've seen VW come here. We've seen Toyota recently announcing that they're going to come out with their first vehicle. Nissan, the same. We have Sino truck from China also assembling trucks here. And so I believe that our job at GIPC fully complements the president's job and is instrumental in creating access to investors in Ghana, but not just that, to also create opportunity for us as Ghanaians. And I do remember that one of the most important things that the president said when I was appointed was that, one, we should position Ghana as a hub for the sub-region, and then secondly, to make Ghana the most business and investment-friendly country on the continent, not just for foreign direct investors, but for Ghanaian businesses as well. And we do recognize that the death the dearth or lack of capital is always an impediment for Ghanaian industry. And so for us, instructive in the work we do are two of the SDGs, which is SDG 1, which talks about poverty alleviation and reduction, and SDG 17, which talks about partnerships and linkages. And although we greatly embrace Ghana Beyond Aid as being the roadmap for our transformation into a developed economy, we also recognize that we need partnerships and linkages with the Ghanaian economy to make it work. And that goes into why it's important to have foreign direct investment, because it creates jobs. And we say that the more investments we have, the more businesses we can have. The more businesses we can have, the more people we can employ. The more people we can employ, the more entrepreneurs also come up to service all that. So foreign direct investment has been a key part of the economic equation now. And as we go forward, under the Ghana Cares Obatampan project, which is a 100 billion cedi project, 30 billion of that would be raised by government through taxes, etc. Now, government can raise its taxes when we create more jobs and more opportunities. Now, the 70% of that, which is 70 billion, will come from the private sector and GIPC. So we really do have our work cut out for us in facilitating private sector partnerships and linkages with the global economy. Secondly, the fact that Ghana is host to the headquarters of the AFCFTA virtually puts us in the driving seat of directing how the economies of Africa will go. And clearly, the president has demonstrated that Ghana's economy should now move away from the export of raw materials and resources to value addition and production and productivity as well. And so that means that we would therefore go on the path of industrialization. And to exhibit that and to ensure that that happens, then we have the policy of one district, one factory, which democratizes the economy and places a business in every nook and cranny of this country, this our dear country. Now, can you imagine if that is achieved? And it's not just a question of creating one business in one district. That should be the flaw. We can get to a position where we can create 10 industries or 10 factories in each district. Now, what will it do? It will create employment opportunities for people in haulage, for people in management, for people in marketing, people in distribution, and therefore it's a very ideal situation where we look forward to creating jobs for our youth. Secondly, having said that, and adding value to our raw materials and resources and not exporting them anymore means that we need quite a bit of infusion of capital, and human, not just physical capital, but human capital to make sure that that happens. And that is where investments and partnerships and linkages come in. And so for us, it's very important to pay attention to that. I can give you many examples where foreign direct investment has been almost instrumental in moving our economy in a certain way. And I can give you in the telecoms industry, when you look at MTN, MTN has invested close to 6 billion in Ghana since they came in 25 years ago. But look at the number of jobs that have built up, given opportunities, given Ghanaians on the back of that to also create their jobs, from the fintech industry to distribution to marketing and all that. We look at the hotel industry. Although we have local hotels, we've also seen some significant global brands like Movenpick and Kempinski come to Ghana. That's all foreign direct investment. What it's done is it's brought state-of-the-art practices and management, as well as created jobs for Ghanaians. Even in the mining sector, which was one of the mainstays of our economy for long, foreign direct investment was very instrumental in growing the mining industry. But we just don't want that. We want actual partnerships with Ghanaians. And though all these investments will create jobs, etc., we also want Ghanaians to rise to the occasion and invest. And I'm happy to say that more recently, we've seen quite a number of Ghanaian investors actually coming to register at GIPC. And we believe that the future looks very good. Our target for this year is 3 billion in accordance with the plan under the Ghana Cares Obatampa project, which means that we have to raise 70 billion cedis by the end of the 4-year term of the project. And this year so far, we have raised approximately $780 million. And we are still looking forward to go out there and make sure that we bring the investors we want here. But we are targeting them along the economies that we expect to push our economy forward. And when I say economies, the industries. So, for example, agriculture and agro-processing is one. Industrialization is another, as we add value to our raw materials and resources. Then we are looking at technology, because we are moving our economy to a technology-based economy, where the main route of engagement between the citizenry and government will be technology. And so these are some of the areas that we believe that we do have a critical and competitive advantage. Also, hospitality. We know how the year of the return and thereafter has actually elevated Ghana's stance as in quotes, a mecca for the African American and the African in the diaspora. And so we're going to leverage on that to also look out for investors in the hospitality business who will come in and invest and create more opportunities. So this, in a short span, gives you a bit of the brief of what we are doing at GIPC. I also want to take this opportunity to say we are rebranding to make sure we are more effective and more efficient. We are working in partnerships with global entities to ensure that we can actually achieve our mandates and even not go beyond our mandate, and lead the charge into a regional movement of the economies of Africa. And as I said before, Ghana being the headquarters of the AFCFTA virtually puts us in the driver's seat in industrialization in Africa. And I'm also happy to say that because of the progress we've made, Ghana was appointed to the board of the steering board of the World Association of Investment Promotion Agencies. So our responsibilities also go beyond Ghana into the African agenda of empowering Africa to play a role in the global economy. And so we are very happy to be here to engage and to discuss with you. And I'll move on straight to the other part of our discussion this morning, or engagement this morning, which is for the Diaspora Investment Summit. Post Year of the Return, or Year of Return, which was the 400th celebration of the first landing in Virginia of 20 slaves from West Africa, it is very clear that we have created a very also clear opportunity and line of engagement with the diaspora. I mean, we're all witnesses to what happened during the Year of the Return, and it was a lot of fanfare, etc. But we also recognize that it just can't be about going to the beaches, music festivals, and our culture. There is a real significant opportunity to bridge the gaps of the economies created by the Africans in the diaspora and the motherland of Africa, and specifically Ghana. And so for us, having been a partner to the Ghana Tourist Authority, the Ministry of Tourism, and then the Diaspora Office of the Presidency, the responsibility was how far we could take this beyond just the yearly annual celebration of the Year of the Return. And therefore, the President declared Beyond the Return, which is actually facilitating all the paths to put together the benefits that we can get in the diaspora for our own development and also their own development. And so Beyond the Return has become an institution where there is a committee that is actually going to work to ensure that the 7 pillars that have been chosen, of which investment is one, is facilitated and actually ingrained in our development agenda. I must say that GIPC is on the steering committee, and I also want to say that we work under the presidency. And so that is why when the president travels, we either follow up with him or we go with him to ensure that we give the technical aspects of the fantastic marketing pitch that he always gives. And so further to this development of Beyond the Return, we thought it was right and time for us to actually do a Diaspora Investment Summit. And this will be limited really to summits. I dare say that in the past few years, there have been diaspora conferences in Ghana, and these engagements have been broad. And this time, we are only going to talk about the investment and the possibilities and the opportunities that exist in Ghana for the diaspora. And I must say that it's important that we look at it. If we look at what has happened over the past few years, and this year fact, no, 2020 particularly, total inward remittances from the diaspora alone was in excess of 3.2 billion. If you go back historically, in fact, some even assume or say that it may be, if you add the formal channels and the informal channels, it may be in excess of $5 billion every year. Now, can you imagine if that is harnessed and mobilized formally into the economy and how much it could do? We've seen this happen in many countries where the diaspora of those countries have been very instrumental for their own growth. And I'll give you a few examples, but one of the most recent is in Nigeria, where they had a diaspora bond that raised $300 million in its first tranche. And I believe that Ghana is well on track to also doing same. So this conference is to try and put together and leverage the power of the diaspora in Ghana. If you look at it, the diaspora across the world has done amazing things to their mother countries. I can give examples of India, where we saw a lot of Indians go to the US, get into the technology field, went back, and it's no wonder that today India is a technology giant. In China, where in the sciences, a lot of Chinese students trained in the US, and today China is a major player in the biotech industry. And in fact, India is today the biggest manufacturer of vaccines because they had their students go there and work and come back. If you look at Nigeria today, Nigerian students in the US are classified as the top 1% performing students. And I know that in the future, that benefit will go a lot to Nigeria. But let's come back to our own home, Ghana. The diaspora has still been very instrumental in many of the things we do, and we can tell businesses that were set up by Ghanaians in the diaspora who came here, who were all front runners in the businesses they do, and today they've grown and they are growing. But that is not enough. We need to have a formal, structured, and stratified engagement with the diaspora and make sure that it won't be like the past, where many of them will remit funds and they come back home and they can't find what those funds did or where those funds were. And so with the Office of the Diaspora, the Presidency, we are working on the diaspora policy. And I'm sure you all know about the homecoming policy as well. And these are all to make sure that we create a structured pathway to engage the diaspora. The theme for this conference, which is happening on the 23rd and 24th, is the new normal, leveraging diaspora investments to build back better. To build back better. And yes, indeed, I believe that the partnership that we create with the diaspora, especially post-COVID, will be instrumental in accelerating our economic growth beyond the predictions that we have. But I dare say that Ghana remains very attractive to the global economy, and it's because of that confidence and all that, and the work of the presidency of traveling around tirelessly that has yielded the results that we have. I suspect that going forward, we shall even do more. And I want to acknowledge the work also done by the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, who is leading the diaspora effort and has been extremely supportive in enabling us create paths of investment for the diaspora. Some of the speakers who will be on the podium in the 2 days include Her Excellency Erica Bennett, who is the head of mission of the African Diaspora Forum, His Excellency Wamkele Mene, who is the Secretary General of the AFCFTA, because the AFCFTA is critical for African wealth development. And then, of course, Honorable Shirley Ayokoboche, Minister for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, Honorable Ken Oforiatta, Minister for Finance, Honorable Ibrahim Awal, my good friend, Minister of Tourism, and my brother, Mr. Kwesi Jiman, the CEO of the Ghana Tourism Authority, Salama Dadevo, CEO of MTN Ghana, Neil Oku, the CEO of Gold Coast Developers, Patricia Pokudebi, the CEO of Plot Enterprise. All of these are from the diaspora. And of course, my very good friend, Charles Eduboyne, who's Minister of State for Finance. And so we do have quite an interesting array of people who have really experienced it, who have come home, invested, and shown that it's important for our country. The focal points for the summit will be to provide an overview of the current investment climate in Ghana and prospects for the future. And I dare say that those prospects are extremely attractive. And then also package and market opportunities for investments across the country. And for example, the 1D, 1F policy opens significant opportunity for people across the nook and cranny of this country. But also the fact that in the industrialization plan we have a 10-point hub strategy also creates enough opportunity for us in Ghana to partner with people in the diaspora, especially in the automotive space, the agri processing space, the pharmaceutical space, the oil and gas space, and the manufacturing space. So I dare say that these have been demonstrated, and I think we should use this conference to also garner partnerships. As I said, SDG 17, partnerships between those of us here and those in the diaspora to bring real development to Ghana. We'll also use it to give first-hand knowledge and policy requirements, feedback from the key business players in Ghana, and provide networking opportunities for business leaders, and encourage private-public sector partnership, because we also believe that that is where we are going to get the most value, where the public partners with the private sector. And I believe that that is one of the key ways of looking at the growth going forward. And then, of course, last but not the least, to share plans and policies to improve the overall important sector-specific business climate. And that, for us, is important. The President has said time and time again that the private sector needs to be energized and facilitated to actually play the leading role in our economy. And that can happen if we actually take the time to create the environment to make that happen. So many of the reforms that we are doing are not just for foreign direct investors, but actually business in Ghana, and more so to facilitate investors, domestic investors, and make it smoother for them. We are sure that it will be a very interesting opportunity. There will be B2B sessions where we'll encourage networking and business relationships. And there will also be the opportunity of people in the diaspora and people in Ghana to pitch their proposals and their business plans to attract investors. The conference will be at the Kempinski Gold Coast Hotel on the 23rd and 24th from 9 to 3:30 on each of those days. To participate in this maiden event, interested persons should follow the GIPC on all its social media platforms, for example, at GIPC on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube for a link to register. To catch the live event on the 23rd and the 24th from 8:30 to 3:30 each day. So we would ask you to, and I dare say that the press is also our partner in this. We are doing this for Ghana. We are doing this also for Africa. And I'll tell you one thing before I yield my space to Minister Opon Nkrumah. By 2050, Africa will be 1/4 of the world's population. It will move from the current 1.3 billion to more than 2.5 billion. That clearly symbolizes a market waiting to happen, because 60% of that population, I'm told, is below the age of 30 years old. And so that is a market waiting to happen, but also an opportunity to supply the world's labor market going forward post-COVID to really reassert the global economy. But that is not all. By then, Africa will still have not less than 30% of the world's mineral resources remaining. It will also have not less than 60% of the arable land left in the world. So Africa can supply the people to change the world, can supply the food to change the world, and it can supply the raw materials to change the world. Now that is what we should be looking at Ghana. And that is the impetus and the drive that the President is given to set Ghana as a hub, empower our young people through education, create the policies of industrialization, and also create the policies of food security, such that we can grow our economy beyond the single-digit growth rates that we have so far. So thank you very much for listening, and I'll be happy to answer your questions.
You in the diaspora and seeking to invest in Ghana? Do you need first-hand information on investment opportunities in Ghana? Then join us at the maiden edition of the Ghana Diaspora Investment Summit, powered by the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, GIPC, at the Kempinski Hotel, Accra, from 23rd to 24th June 2021. We will discuss the new normal and how to leverage diaspora investment to build back better. This event is under the auspices of His Excellency President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and partnered by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, the Diaspora Office at the Office of the President, Beyond the Return Secretariat of the Ghana Tourism Authority, and the Diaspora African Forum. To participate, kindly follow GIPC on all social media platforms at GIPC Ghana or call 0505 723 242 or 0505 724 006 to register. This event will stream live on all GIPC social media platforms. Let's grow in Ghana and grow with Ghana.
Mr. Grant, thank you for the brief that you've just shared with us, the historical account, especially in the last 5 years of what we've done, the outlook for this year, 2021. Most importantly, what this means to all of us as citizens and as people within the Ghanaian jurisdiction. And then also on the Diaspora and Investment Summit, 23rd to 24th June, you said, at Kempinski. I would invite you later to take some questions on all that you've said and matters that are associated with what that you've said. But colleagues, just 2 quick points that I'll mention before I take the next brief, and then I'll take questions generally together. For those who've had time to study the economic history of Ghana, what you consider as normal today, which is the role of private sector in industrialization, used to be an aberration at some point in time. It was a sin to even talk about the role of private sector in industrialization. If you've looked at the industrial history of Ghana, the economic history of Ghana, from the First Republic, the whole country was of the view that state-owned factories, state-owned farms, and that this whole agenda of liberalization and private sector participation is a sin, an aberration. Today it appears as normal and the numbers are looking interesting and we're having a conversation about it. But in this new paradigm also lies the responsibilities of other stakeholders. So GIPC can go and onboard nearly $3 billion worth of investments. But there are local entities that are supposed to work to ensure that these investments see the light of day and create the jobs that they have to create across the country. And sometimes when you pay attention to the local stories, it will break your heart. There's some officer somewhere who is supposed to issue some permit for somebody's $10 million investment to function. And you will be surprised at the kind of attitudes that are going on there. But there's a whole conversation of the role of the local facilitator in onboarding all of these investments. I'm sure somewhere down the line we'll have an opportunity to do that. But Mr. Grant, we'll come back to you later to take some questions for you. So colleagues, you may want to jot down your questions for Mr. Grant at this point in time. Now I want to invite shortly the government statistician to talk to us about the 2021 census and the activities that are ongoing ahead of that. Colleagues, the reality is that bad news sells more. Sensational news is sexier. But sometimes there are major national exercises like this that are ongoing that, unfortunately, we don't give it enough coverage and enough mileage. My plea to you this afternoon is that in this coming week, we have just about what? Is it 2 weeks or 1.5 weeks? We have just about a week to the census. And I want to pray you, our colleagues, to please talk to your editors and make some space in your bulletins and in your programs and lift up the conversation about the census, its importance, its benefit. I hear you on your morning shows. And don't they plan? Can't they plan properly for this country? They don't seem to know what they are doing. But the reality is that you need census data to be able to plan for development. And if we're able to rally the whole country to participate in the census exercise, the Ghana Statistical Service can generate data in its various stratifications. It can be used for the kind of policy and program planning that we are looking for. So we all, once again, have a responsibility to ensure that this census is successful. Shortly, I invite the government statistician to join us. Before then, just a quick announcement. So far, I'm informed that the project team handling one of our projects here at the Ministry of Information, the Amplified project, which is aimed at making available to young entrepreneurs and social entrepreneurs, etc., our platform so that they can speak to larger audiences. They've shortlisted about 280 different courses that they will be promoting for the second half of this year. I want to ask my colleagues to quickly put up the trailer on the screen, and then after that, Professor Nim will join us with the 2021 census. Prof, so please join us behind the podium.
Amplified is a series of social marketing programs that are focused on using the new media leverage of the Ministry of Information and Association of Program Partners to support the work of young Ghanaians and to aid them in reaching larger audiences with entrepreneurial products and services, social courses, and youth mentorship and inspiring stories. Amplified Business will highlight products and services of young Ghanaian entrepreneurs doing business in Ghana.
Where would I have been if this hadn't happened? It was because someone, threw the spotlight on me and my business.
Amplified Social will focus on advocacy about human-centered issues, adding a stronger voice to issues that confront us.
In our advocacy work, we've come across many parents of children with disabilities, especially cerebral palsy, who do not have a place to take their children. These children are locked up in rooms because schools refuse to admit them. We are happy that the government has an inclusive education policy.
Amplified Success is a weekly conversation on career guidance, mentoring, and leadership for the youth of Ghana.
So Ghana Think's vision is to build a critical mass of young Ghanaian people who are patriotic, passionate, positive, proactive, progressive, and productive.
My word to everybody out there, not just the government, is that you should get on social media and use it to sort of amplify whatever you're doing.
Unknown to me, I was trending on Twitter, I was trending on Facebook with my bags. That singular gesture really brought life back into my business.
We are happy that government is now paying attention to social issues and issues that concerns the vulnerable.
Being able to be mentored around a certain career that you're interested in, around a certain job that you want to get into, around a certain business that you want to run is very important.
Particularly for me, let people know what you're doing. Take feedback and let us get into the pulse.
Amplified, supporting businesses and building people.
So we're expecting the full rollout to be from the 1st of July on our social handles and then on the handles of our partner social amplifiers and media houses. Now we want to talk about the 2021 census. Prof, what is this chalking and listing that is currently ongoing?
Good afternoon. Colleagues, as the Honorable Minister indicated, from the 27th, we're going to celebrate the 2021 Population Housing Census 9th, and we're going to follow that up with the actual enumeration, which is going to span from the period 28th June 2021 to the 11th of July 2021. Currently, we have our field officers on the ground doing what we call chalking and listing of structures. And Honorable, thank you for mentioning that so that we'll take advantage and educate persons in Ghana on two things. One has to do with all of us knowing that the census undertaking is in two phases. The first phase is what we are currently doing, and the essence of doing that exercise is to achieve our primary objective of the census undertaking, which has to do with a comprehensive, complete coverage. So ahead of the enumeration exercise, we comb around all the country and ensure that structures at different levels of completion are chalked and listed. What we mean by chalking is physically writing on the various structures, and per our approach, because we do not want to miss any structure, we go by what we call the serpentine approach. All that it simply means is once you get to the entry point, at every step you look your left, you look your right to ensure that every structure on the way is chalked. So this is the manual writing on the various structures as I indicated, which are different levels of completion. Once this is done, that is the chalking part is done, we proceed, as you all will be aware by now, for the first time we are rolling out a digital census, so the data is captured on our tablets, and that is what we mean by the listing exercise. So in the past 6 days, excluding today, since the 14th of June 2021, when we started the actual chalking, which was preceded by canvassing of all the 51,922 enumeration areas. This exercise has gone on for the past 6 days, and I'm happy to share with persons in Ghana some of the key observations from the perspective of response rates that we've received so far. Ahead of the exercise, what we did was to get a sense of the workload, and we keep on saying that as a country, we are not just rolling out a digital census, we are rolling out a fully digital census. And what that means is that for the first time in our census undertaking, we have benchmark data, specifically building footprints that we've picked from satellite imagery and other sources from other international partners. And ahead of the exercise, we were able to estimate in excess of 11 million structures in the country. As we speak, after the 6th day of data collection, that is data as at the end of yesterday, we've covered 70% of these structures over the next 6 days. This gives us a lot of confidence moving into the remaining 4 days of the exercise that the remaining 30% will be covered as we pull our officers out of the field from the on the 23rd of June 2021. As I indicated, this is just the first phase of the exercise. Census undertaking is always underscored by 3 objectives: comprehensive, complete coverage, as I indicated, and the second one is to ensure that the data that we've collected is accurate. So from the perspective of comprehensive, complete coverage, as I indicated, we use the building footprint as one of the benchmarks, and 70% of that has been achieved. Another indicator that we are using to ensure that we have comprehensive, complete coverage is ahead of the census undertaking since 2017, we went around all the country and were able to divide the country into small geographical areas. So we arrived at 51,922 enumeration areas and 131,739 localities. At the end of the 6th day, we've received data from 99.7% of the enumeration areas. That is, as we speak, we have just about 107 enumeration areas out of the 51,922 enumeration areas across the country. Later on, I'm going to highlight some of the issues that have impeded our ability to reach these enumeration areas in the first 6 days. But I must indicate ahead of time that efforts so far suggest that in the next 4 days, we will be able to achieve that. On the front of accurate data from the listening exercise, one of the questions that we asked has to do with the global positioning system, that is the GPS coordinates. Again, this is the first time that as a country, we are going into a census activity by collecting data on the GPS coordinates. As we speak, we've received about 98% of the data showing less than 5-meter range. This is a lot of comfort for us because it's going to complement the Ghana Postal Digital Address System. And for our information, the listening exercise is not just an introductory exercise. It gives us some level of data that as a country we can plan, especially from the perspective of investment that we've talked about. All the GPS coordinates are covering over different 80 uses of the structures, that is 11.1 million structures that I talked about. So the listing in itself is already giving us data from the perspective of how businesses are supposed to be located, the kind of things that they need to look out for, especially from the competitiveness point of view, and also looking at it from the other services within wherever they want to locate their businesses. So for this briefing, I've highlighted already 3 issues that are giving us some comfort that the census undertaking is on track. What I'll seek to do is to share with you some observations in the past 6 days to inform our engagement moving forward. The first has to do with some of our enumerators having challenges with the exercise, and this was expected, so some measures were put in place. But having said that, moving forward, we really need to think about how we can make it much more easier in the next 4 days. One of the issues that have come to our attention has to do with boundary disputes, and we've been working closely with the Minister for Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Development. We've made good inroads with some of the areas. We have just a pocket of them, so we're using this medium to appeal to both traditional leaders and administrative leaders responsible for these boundary issues to ensure that the census exercise goes on as expected. What is important for all of us to take note as persons in Ghana is that Ghana Statistical Service is not mandated for the resolution of boundary disputes. We facilitate the process by supporting the various agencies. So through the Minister for Finance, a boundary resolution committee was set up, and the Ministry for Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Development is driving the agenda. The EC is on board. Already recommendations have been given out for the minister's attention. What we are pleading for is that if we allow the census proceedings to go on, once the resolution is reached, we'll be in a position to move the numbers from wherever it is now to where it has to be. What we should not allow to happen is for us to wait for another 10 years for people that we are going to miss in terms of counting to come on board. The second issue has to do with security concerns that have come up from both the perspective of our enumerators and that of the respondents. I'm urging all persons in Ghana that our enumerators have been carefully marked to ensure that you go through some protocols if you have some doubts as in whether they are truly working for Ghana Statistical Service or otherwise. All of them are expected to carry with them the national ID. In the event where they don't have the national ID, they should have the census ID card. In the event where they are using a letter of introduction from the Ghana Statistical Service, respondents are to demand for the national ID that all of us are conversant with. In addition to that, they should come with their reflective jackets, as the Honorable Minister indicated. Our reflective jacket is the light blue, and the inscription is clearly on it with the logo of the census and the 2020 round of population and housing census behind. They should also carry on them a cap indicating the Ghana Statistical Service and, for that matter, the census undertaking. Once they have all these things and we still have doubts in our mind, let's take advantage of the numbers either on the letters of introduction or on the ID card, particularly our toll-free number 0800 426 426. We've set up a call center to readily address such concerns. It's also come to our attention issues around health and safety of our enumerators, and for all those that unfortunately have been involved in some accident, as a service, we're putting in steps to ensure that they do not bear the brunt alone. The last issue that is affecting both the use of tablets and the syncing of data is the long duration for power outages in some areas. We did provide for this at the planning stage by getting power banks, but instances where we have power outages, specifically around the Wa municipal area, that for 4 days we had power outages, it constrained the ability to use both the tablets and the power banks, and we are hoping that we're going to continue to engage moving forward. In the next 4 days, what do we expect? We're taking this advantage, this platform, to urge all persons in Ghana to sustain the interest that we've seen so far in the census undertaking. As I mentioned, we still have 107 enumeration areas out of the 51,922 enumeration areas to cover. We've covered 70% of the building footprint, so we still would require to cover the remaining 30. So we're using this platform to sustain the interest of all persons in Ghana on the upcoming exercise. And one way we are doing that is to take advantage of our call center starting from today. The exercise started on the 13th with the canvassing. 14th to today, we've been doing actual chalking and listing. So our plea is that if as of today your structure has not been chalked, if as of today you have not been seen by any of our enumerators, take advantage of our toll-free number 0800 426 426, and also we have other numbers 059 147 6893, 0206 850 157, 055 162 5567, and 059 147 6895. These are the avenues by which we all would ensure that no one is left behind as far as the census undertaking is concerned. So moving forward, we're going to prepare for the 2021 population exercise. As I indicated, we've done the first phase and we're moving into the second phase, which is the actual enumeration. As the minister indicated, 27th night is not about counting. 27th night is to raise awareness, consciousness about the questions that we're going to ask from the 28th. So let us not have the impression that 27th night is about knocking doors of people in an attempt to count them. All that we are doing is to raise awareness on that night. And we are hopeful that once we are all targeted with the various instruments that we've developed, we are pretty certain that we're going to have a successful census. Honorable, I guess that I'm running out of time.
No, please.
Okay. Thank you. You're getting close, I suggested so. I'll quickly run through the instrument as I indicated. The enumeration itself is starting on 28th, and we're going to have 10 core modules for the census undertaking. The first module, to give you a sense of the questions that we're going to ask, the first module is on immigration, thinking about persons who have traveled outside the country in the last 12 months. So that is the first module that we're going to work with. This is very important for us because some of the questions that do come up is, what about members of our usual households who have traveled outside the country, whether we're not going to count them or not? We're definitely going to collect information on them, but our headline census figure will be based on all persons who are going to spend the 27th night in the country. The second module is the socio-demographic module, and as I indicated, here we are asking questions related to literacy, education, and the two sentimental issues that lately have been in the news. Thankfully, we've overcome them, and that has to do with religious affiliation and ethnicity. We also ask questions related to marital status under the socio-demographic characteristics. And the third module is on literacy and education, and I believe we all know the importance of this for our development discourse. Then the next set of modules are related to issues around difficulties in performing activities. For the first time in our 2021 population housing census, we're going to ask the severity of the difficulties in performing these activities, at least from 5 different areas. So once the enumerators approach the respondents, they're going to ask whether you have no difficulty in, for instance, seeing, you have some difficulty in seeing, and whether you have a lot of difficulty in seeing even when you are using some aid. Then the issue about economic activity, as was indicated, employment and unemployment figures remain critical to our discussion. So the 2021 Population and Housing Census has a full module on economic activity, and here the reference will be 7 days preceding the census night. And persons will be asked whether they are engaged in some activity or they've made some effort, that is whether they are available and seeking to be engaged in some economic activity. Another module in there which ties very well with the current development agenda of the government is the Information, Communication and Technology module. And here our focus is to ask questions around the use of ICT tools, and we do an extension to ask questions related to the use of mobile money, which gradually is taking over traditional banking system. And the last 4 set of modules span from issues related to fertility and child survival, issues on mortality, and issues of housing and sanitation. Of particular importance to us in there are the issues on housing and sanitation, specifically to help us address 2 things under housing, that is the housing stock, housing deficit, and also the quality of housing. And this is where we make good use of our information from the listing exercise in terms of the use of the structures. Indeed, with the information that we've collected so far for the various structures that we have in the country, 55% of the information that we've collected so far suggests that they are used for residential-related activities. So moving into the census, we're going to make good use of the housing module and again, the sanitation module. I'll conclude by sharing with you some issues that we want you to help us demystify as members of the press as we go into the actual census undertaking. We've seen on social media some issues related to why people will be counted on the 9th. As I indicated, the census undertaking targets 6 different groups: the households, institutions that we categorize in 2 dimensions, those in a predetermined institution, that is the university's halls of residence. The entry point and the exit points are known, and institutions that are purely temporal, the entry and the exit are unknown. That is where we do our PAC 1C. And the fourth model is when we are targeting people who will be transiting our floating population, and we have a separate instrument for them. And then we have our fifth group, that is persons who are going to spend the census night in guest houses and hotels. And lastly, we're going to have persons of our diplomatic corps who would have persons of Ghanaian nationality spending the census night there. So these are the 6 categories of persons that we're going to have. The only group of persons that we're going to target on the 9th of 27th are those who are our floating population. That is our 4th category. So if you find yourself in your household, if you find yourself in any of the institutions that I've talked about, if you find yourself in a guest house or a hotel, do not expect any enumerator coming in to do the enumeration there. Our target is strictly persons in transit and the homeless households. Then from the 28th, we're going to start with the actual enumeration. Census undertaking is not a mandate of only Ghana Statistical Service. As we indicated in our previous briefing, it is a national activity, and it is indeed a non-partisan activity. Hence the phrase, you count, get counted, which is the logo for the 2021 Population and Housing Census. As you go out, we're sharing with you a one-sheet information pack, which educates all of us on the scope of questions that we're going to ask during the 2021 Population and Housing Census. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof, for that very detailed brief. And as Prof resumes his seats, I would just ask for a quick infomercial to be put up on the screen, and then I'll come take your questions. Already I'm seeing a lot of questions on our social media handles, both for the GIPC and then for the Ghana Statistical Service. I just want to share with you a quick infomercial, and then I'll start taking your questions. Yofi, while we wait for the information, let me share with you some of the questions that are already popping up on our social handles. And then I'll ask for the microphone. So this one says, you indicated that there will be opportunity to present projects for partnerships at this conference. How can one take advantage of this opportunity? I have a second one that is asking whether the summit is open to the general public or strictly by invitation. The GIPC targets 3 billion in FDI for 2021. However, as at half year, you have done 780. What are the chances that you can meet this 3 billion target? So, are you ready? Okay, please cue it, and then I'll take the questions.
The 2021
Population and Housing Census.
The 2021 Population and Housing Census is here, and all persons in Ghana will be counted. The census night is 27th June 2021. Counting of all persons who will spend the census night in Ghana will be conducted from that night to 11th July. Before then, all structures will be assigned unique numbers and basic information collected on them and their occupants from 13th to 25th June.
Census officials will come to your places of residence to interview you. Please be patient and cooperate with the officials by answering all questions completely and truthfully. All census officials are under oath to keep the information you provide confidential.
Ghana Statistical Service urges all persons in Ghana to support this important national exercise for the national good. Please note that the census officials will observe all the COVID-19 protocols as enshrined in the Ministry of Health, Public Health and Safety protocols.
2021 Population and Housing Census. You count, get counted.
So I'm going to take the questions. Please give me a wave and I'll send the microphone to you. I'll take them and then I'll invite my guest. We'll start with Sarah at the back. You know we are biased towards the ladies, like we always say. So once Sarah's hand is up, all the men will have to wait. GNA, don't worry. Let the ladies go first. Sarah, let's start with you.
Please, we'd like to know the very latest regarding GIP's partnership with UNDP's platform to provide market intelligence on investment opportunities in Ghana and within the region. We also want to find out what is GIB's take on foreign businesses who repatriate funds out of the country instead of investing in the Ghanaian economy. And we also understand Amazon has plans to come into the country and have an office. How through is this, and how far with negotiations? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is it true Amazon is coming to Ghana? There's a supposition that foreign-owned businesses often repatriate the entirety of their profits. Does the GIPC have a view on maybe a quota conversation or something of the sort? And what is the latest on the GIPC partnership with the UNDP on intelligence? Yofi, I'll come to you. Let me take some more, and then I'll come. Yeah, GNA.
Yes, I am asking two questions, and it goes to the Chief Census Officer.
Okay.
Yes, my first question is, he mentioned one of the challenges as boundary dispute, and he said the sector ministry is working on it, and even a committee has been set up. I want to find out whether this is not too close to the census to resolve dispute, but it should have been done even by 2 years' time. And if this is still pending, don't you think it's going to frustrate the effort of this census? Then second question is, some residents in Bonkro electoral area in the Ahafano district of the Ashanti region have allegedly attacked some census officers who were doing this listing and checking. And according to them, they were challenged during the elections, and so they couldn't vote. And so they don't want the census officials to even come there to enumerate the list. So my questions, out of this situation, I have 3 questions from it. One, what measures are you putting in place to prevent similar incidents from happening on the real census? Then 2, if it occurs again, don't you think it's not going to augur well for this census, since the nation might not get the accurate data that it seeks to gather? Then 3, do you have any sanctions for people who will prevent census officials from performing their duty? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Quick and snappy. Yes, sir. I'll give you the final word, and then I'll start with answers.
Yeah, my name is John Awuni. I represent Kesben. I have 2 questions, one for Mr. Yofi Grant, and then the other for the census statistician, the professor. The first question is, during this diaspora summit, one of the biggest success stories is the diasporans coming back to invest in the country. And there are times in the past where some of these diasporans complained about bureaucratic procedures in registering their businesses. Some get frustrated and then they go back without bringing their investment to the country. What will be done right this time around to make sure that these bureaucratic procedures doesn't rear its ugly head again? And then on the statistician, the question on the statistician.
Professor Enim.
Professor Enim, good. Recently, I was a witness to one of the young ladies doing the chalking and listing, where a young man requested for money. And the lady assured him that on the day of the 28th, where
as in this young man is a statistician.
No, the young man was, the young lady was doing the chalking and listing.
Okay.
And the young man requested that on the day of the registration or the census day, he will expect some money from the lady before he give his details. And the lady assured him that on that day he will make the money, she will make the money available. So I wanted to know if money has been made available to them so that people who request, they pay them before they have their names actually registered.
And how do you deal with that that whole thing where people say, if you don't give me money, I won't
do it, yes.
Yeah,
thank you.
I won't participate. So, Mr. Grant, let me invite you to the podium first. Apart from the ones that were voiced out, I have a few online which I would also raise when you are done.
Okay, Sarah, your first question was the latest partnership with UNDP. And yes, indeed, GIPC partnered with the UNDP to come up with what we call the SDG Investor Roadmap Tool, which is a sort of analytical tool, an analytical and data tool, which helps investors pinpoint on specific areas and economies or investments, and actually outlines how they can get to it, what the possible returns are, and therefore makes our work easier. and makes the work easier for an investor. Because one of the things an investor wants to know, that assume that he invests in shea butter in the north of Ghana. What returns can he possibly make? How can he actually get there? And that's what the roadmap tool does. It's pretty important and unique. And I'm happy to say that it was launched from Ghana and Singapore on the day, a recognition that Ghana was doing something right in attracting SDG investors. And indeed, we are very clear that we want investors who enable us achieve the SDGs pretty quickly. So I hope that answers the question. And then the question about companies who repatriate their profits. All of their profits. It's inconceivable that a company would repatriate all their profits, because they'll pay taxes. And those taxes are what is due to us as a country and government. But I dare say that before the investor comes in, you have a contract with the investor. For us in Ghana and GIPC, we don't look at an investment as an event. We look at it as a relationship. And in that relationship, it's a business relationship. And it's the same with every company. As an investor or an entrepreneur in Ghana, when you do your business, government will collect its 25%. And it's the same with the foreign investor. We do collect our 25%, but they also add a little bit more. For somebody to leave his country and come and invest in your country, bring his capital to come and invest in your country, create employment for you. You gain by the number of people you employ and the economy that also creates. And then apart from that, we also have something we call the Technology Transfer Agreement, where we make sure that whatever monies you repatriate are permissible or allowable by law. So it's not conceivable that they repatriate all their profits. And I guess by all their profits, you mean that gross profits from their business. No, that wouldn't happen. But secondly, I also want to bring your mind to the awareness that profit is a part of business. So if you were to go to Togo, for example, and you set up your business, and you made profits, the expectation is that you as a Ghanaian, you can repatriate your profits back after you've paid your taxes and paid all the regulatory requirements under your company. So, and I do hear quite often people ask that question. They come, they don't have anything, they take all their money out. But they brought money to invest. And if they build, whatever it is, if they built an airport, when they are going, they can't take the airport. They will leave it. They go there, they leave a factory, they carry the factory back, they will leave it. It's in very rare occasions, like it's happening in Qatar, where they will actually bundle the stadium and donate that we have fixed assets carried away. But just to assure you that under the Ghanaian law, nobody comes here and takes away all their profits. It can't happen. Now the third question about investors, foreign or people from the diaspora intending to invest and they are blocked by bureaucratic barriers. It's not just those who come from the diaspora. Even Ghanaians in trying to set up businesses face some of these bureaucratic barriers. But I can assure you that under the Business Regulatory Reform Program that is actually housed at the Ministry of Finance, on the Ghana Cares, and the Ministry of Trade and Industry, and GIPC being a partner to it, we are looking at the business environment and taking away a lot of these bureaucratic things that do not help us. And there are quite a number of them that do not really assist business people to do their businesses. And I'm sure you are quite aware that a lot of Ghanaian business people also complain about the same. The problem very often with the diasporans, and we have the head of the diaspora office of the presidency here, is that when they come in, they want to compare the environment to wherever they are. And sometimes that creates a bit of an imbalance. So they feel that, our local environment or Ghana's environment is not conducive. But I can tell you a number of diasporans who have come to Ghana and set up very, very successful businesses. Very much like indigents in Ghana who have set up very, very successful businesses. And at GIPC, what we've done is actually to set up an aftercare service for investors, whether indigenous or foreign, to help them negotiate some of these problems and bottlenecks that they face in getting their businesses done. But the intention in the long run is to have a one-stop shop where an investor doesn't have to go to 20 places to get their businesses registered. And through the Ghana.gov platform, you have all the regulations and all that you need to go through to do a business. It's just very much like how the Registrar Generals has actually set up a digital platform to get your registration done, etc. GIPC also have a digital platform to make sure that we help you negotiate all these little nuances that hold you back. But at the end of the day, it's government's intention to make Ghana the most business-friendly country in Africa, and that will engage us fully in bringing about the reforms for business.
Yofi, some 3 quick ones before you take your seats. There are fears that people from the diaspora will take over jobs meant for the average Ghanaian rather than sharing best practices and knowledge transfer. Are there any plans to ensure that these fears don't materialize? That's 1. 2, you are targeting 3 billion this year, 2021. You've done 780. What gives you confidence that you can meet your target? And then 3, you mentioned earlier that there's opportunity to present projects for partnerships. How can one take advantage of this or these opportunities?
Right. I will answer. Sorry, can you repeat them again? So I have
you mentioned that there's an opportunity to present projects for partnerships during this conference. How do people take advantage?
Yes, we have already stated that those interested should go to any of our sites, many of our platforms, and you find the instruction there. But I also want to say here that because of constraints of numbers, it's only those who have a physical invitation who can come into the hall. What we are planning to do is actually to number the seats. So if you come there and you don't have a number, you can't have a seat, because we have to also abide by social distancing protocols and health protocols under this pandemic. But we will give you access to that partnership through our digital platforms.
3 billion, you've done 780. What gives you confidence you can meet your target?
Well, the confidence lies in the fact that we are clear on who we are speaking to and what we are trying to get out of it. The thing is that investment business is not linear. For want of a better example, it's not like going to the market and finding tomatoes there and buying and taking it back. It's a process, a long process. And if you want to get $1 billion from somebody, it's not from a phone call or one visit. You actually build, and I did say that, it's a relationship. First of all, you do the country branding, the country marketing, then you do the opportunity marketing, then they do their due diligence to ensure that this is a project they want to do, this is a country I want to be in, what does the country offer, can I take my money back when I've made it, like the first question that was asked, which is a very critical thing for investors everywhere in the world. The ability to repatriate your capital and your profits is an opener for many investors.
And then very finally, there are fears that diasporans will take over the opportunities. Is there any effort at dealing at that? And then I'll go to Stats.
I hope that fear is not sustained, because first and foremost, we are here. This is our country. And I am trying to put the question together, because if somebody comes and invests, he's rather come to create an opportunity. And that opportunity will create opportunities for those who are here as well. It's not one of, if I come to invest my money, then I'm denying somebody a job. I'm actually, if I'm an investor and I come to the country, I am bringing value. What I'd rather say is, it opens the channels for partnerships, particularly for us at GIPC, in the supply chain of investment business. Ghanaians can firmly plug in to make sure that they get more value out of the business. But I'm not sure that anybody is coming from abroad to come and displace anybody. In any case, they are Ghanaians, just like us. Anybody who comes here from the Ghanaian diaspora is a Ghanaian, and he may also create his own opportunity. So what I'd rather encourage is that we shouldn't have fears about these things. We should rather embrace them and take advantage of them.
Thank you. Professor Anim, please join us and take these questions. Boundary disputes, do you have enough time to resolve it? Don't you fear that it will compromise the exercise? Bonkro and their Hafuano reported attacks. What does it mean for safety of your enumerators and your officers? What could be the impact of similar activities on the exercise itself? And are there any sanctions for persons who deny enumerators the right to do their work? And then finally, there was a question about money.
Thank you, Honorable. These are 3 very good questions, and we are happy to always do education, publicity, and sensitization on this. So the issue of boundary disputes have been with us, and let me indicate that It is not a static problem, it's a very fluid problem. It emerges as and when, as a country, you think about expanding your administrative regions, creating more districts. And also it's important, we know that the sources of the boundary disputes are diverse. The two major sources are traditional and administrative. Having said this, in 2010, ahead of the census and after the census, we had a Bennett report that came up with some recommendations suggesting what we should do as a country to try and resolve it. As I indicated, as a result of the creation of regions and administrative districts, some of the issues that were existed and new ones have surfaced closer to the 2021 population housing census. In 2019, again, under the leadership of the chairperson for the 2021 National Steering Committee, Census Steering Committee, a boundary resolution committee was set up, and as I indicated, their report is ready. The way we go about these things is to sort of tier the resolution process, and we don't want to push the limits of applying the sanctions, which I'm going to talk about it shortly. So one of the things that we do is to try and do a lot of engagement at different levels, do a lot of public education, so that the boundary dispute would in no way be mixed up with the census undertaking. As I indicated, it is not the mandate of Statistical Service to drive the resolution, knowing that for some of the disputes, it requires a constitutional instrument, the CI, and with some of the resolutions, it requires a legislative instrument. And you would all agree with me that neither of these can be done in a matter of a week or two because of the processes that we have to go through it. From our point of view, this is definitely not a challenge once the engagement and the education is deepened, especially from the perspective that whatever the counting turns out to be, once these issues are resolved, we can always move the numbers from where it currently is to where we want it to be. So it is not an issue of we determining or we saying in authority that this is where this locality should be and this is where the other locality should be. So we are urging persons around the discussions on boundary disputes to allow the counting to proceed, and we're going to treat these areas as special geographical areas going into the census and allow the processes to take its course for a resolution to be arrived at. The second question on Ahafo indeed has come to our attention just this morning. We've had a discussion with the regional statistician for Ahafo on this matter. We've gone through the first layer of engagement. The outcome has not been very successful. Tomorrow we are escalating the matter to the regional minister, and ahead of the census management at HQ paid courtesy visits to almost all the regional ministers, anticipating that some of these things are going to come up. So certainly tomorrow that discussion would happen, and if it is not resolved, as I indicated, this is something that would definitely escalate. We don't think that this would affect the census in any way. Based on the highlights that I provided, 99.7% of the enumeration areas data has been received from those EAs already. We have just 107 EAs outstanding. So we don't see this giving us a challenge moving into the main enumeration. Let me take advantage and talk about how we go about these things when it's difficult to resolve them. The Statistical Service Act 2019-1003, specifically Clause 54, talks about offenses and penalties as far as our work is concerned. But we always precede any major activity like this with a lot of publicity, education, and sensitization around the exercise. And we'll continue to pursue this. But once we are not able to do that, subclause C of Clause 54 clearly says that any persons who obstruct a member that Ghana Statistical Service has engaged for the data collection exercise will be penalized. Not more than 200 units and not more than 12 months imprisonment or both. So the law is clear on the sanctions associated with, one, you preventing people from doing their exercise because this is a national activity, and two, if you decide to refrain from it, the same penalties would be applied. And also, if you give false information, the same penalty would apply. But as I indicated, we try as much as possible to go down the route of engaging people in public education campaigns to bring them on board anytime we reach such a hurdle in terms of data collection. The third issue has to do with your experience, my colleague, in terms of some of the challenges that our enumerators go through. Nowhere in our engagement do we pay monies for data collection. And indeed, the law is again very blunt on that in terms of our civic responsibility to provide Ghana Statistical Service with the needed information. So there is no way in our undertaking would we give any respondent some amount of money in view of the data that we are receiving from the respondent. If the enumerator did that, I would call it as an unfortunate situation because there wouldn't be any money made available. But I'm pretty sure that under the circumstance, the enumerator wanted to collect the data. But if, as a media person, this gets your attention, kindly let us know, and then we'll move to the next step on that. Thank you.
Thank you. And colleagues in the media, it also gives us an opportunity to do some education. Why somebody will say this is because perhaps the person has no understanding the value of this exercise on their personal life and their progress and development. And that's why you say, well, this thing doesn't mean anything to me, so unless you give me money, I won't participate. It gives us an opportunity to do some education as to the benefits. And the GSS has provided a whole data set of the benefits of census data to citizens and to the entire population. I want to plead with you, make some time, of all the hours of airtime that you have, make some time and let's also educate the public so that some of these incidents, as rare as they are, will not even happen at all. I'll take a very final batch. We have enough time for a final batch, and then we'll wrap up. Final batch of questions, and then we'll wrap up. Nana, I see you, but I see a lady at the back, so you know how we do. Madam, let's hear you.
Please, the question on Amazon was not answered.
Yes, I'll let him answer that one. But there's another lady in a jacket. Yes, madam.
Okay, I'm Natalie from City TV. I want to know from Yofi, what is the GIPC and government doing to promote initial startup funding or the subsequent capital infusion in the form of competitive grants at favorable rates to help the diaspora entrepreneurs launch their businesses in the country? Okay.
Thank you. Yofi, so there's a question of startup funding for local entrepreneurs or the option of getting people who bring in FDI to contribute to something that can help stimulate local funding for entrepreneurs. Is the GIPC considering this in any way? And then you can confirm, or like the lawyers say, deny, whether Amazon is coming to town and where those conversations are going. Then I'll take the final two here, a gentleman here, and then I'll give you the final word. So let me take you so that when I come to the front, I don't go back. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm Musa Lansa with GH1 TV. Mostly when we talk of investment summits or forums like this, the attention mostly is in some areas of the country. I'm trying to be as biased as you are to women in questioning. Mr. Yofi Grant, how much would you engage the people in the diaspora, especially with investment opportunities up north, especially the 5 regions up north? How much of the engagement will you have with them to consider going there to invest in? Thank you.
And if anytime we travel across the country, one of the questions that comes up, particularly in the outlier areas, is that, yeah, 1D, 1F for investment is going on, but it appears concentrated in Accra, Kumasi, Tema, a few other areas. What about us? And I guess that's why you're asking this question. I think it's a solid question, and the bias is allowed. Abednego, very final, and then I'll come to the front. Quickly.
Good afternoon. Efrem Abednego Asante said, "Me admire Wadom FM." No, but my question person be say, participants do those saying yeah expect from this summit. No, thank you.
Okay, that's in Chi. You take it, Nana. Final one. Not more than 2 questions, sir.
Yes, sir. Honorable Minister, good afternoon. My question has to link up with what the question the gentleman asked from the north. Not only the north, but I think that we are over-concentrating all the industries in Accra, Tema. And if we do that, then we put pressure on the cities, the 2 cities, because then migration, overpopulation, and all other vices come. And why do we deprive the other areas, other regions from getting, I don't know whether the investors have the choice of putting their factories where they want to put them, and whether the GMPs doesn't have anything to do with that. So if you have that, then acquisition of land. You know that acquisition of land for investment is very cumbersome, very tedious for that matter. So people go through a lot of difficulties acquiring proper land. I don't know whether you facilitate investors from getting land for their investments. And Dr. Nim, Professor Nim, sorry,
I want to bring down his status. Professor,
forgive me. Are you enumerating every structure in sight, or you just segregate, or you just pick and choose? Because I've seen some structures in my area, others have been chalked, others have been chalked. Are you attending to all structures in question?
Thank you
very much.
Prof.
Thank you. We are identifying all structures at different levels of completion. So once it's fully completed, we are targeting that. And any structure that is above window level, we chalk and list that structure as well. As I indicated, the intent is to find out persons who live in the structure and persons who live around the structure. So it's not just the traditional kind of structures that we are all aware of, the conventional and unconventional structures, that is our target. And as I indicated, so far we've targeted 11.1 million structures that we aim at chalking and listing. And we've so far done in excess of 80 million of those structures. Thank you.
Resume your seat. Let me invite Mr. Grant. Mr. Grant, so is it that you guys decide where the investments should go, and you are deliberately depriving some other areas, or the investor has a choice? And if the investor has a choice, what do you do with the feedback about the geographic dispersion of these investment opportunities? I think that's one block of questions. Before startup funding and Amazon, and then how many people are you expecting in Tree?
But the choice of place for investment usually is not as so preserved. And investors will invest where the opportunity is and they face the least barriers everywhere in the world. I can give you an example where a major company, was it Toyota or was it Nissan, was looking at a place to actually put their latest factory. And what they did was to issue a request for proposals from countries. And so they selected a country that gave them the most opportunity and the least problems. And it's the same for every investor. Every investor wants where the investment is closer to the market and they will face least resistance. But I dare say that, having said that doesn't mean that then nobody should invest in other areas. And I know very well that there are plans from the Northern Development Authority to the Middle Development Authority to the Coastal Development Authority to ensure that we create opportunity in all these places. I have been around the country a number of times, and I dare say that there are opportunities in certain corners in this country that if I was to invest, I would look at first, that are not in the urban areas. Apart from that, policy has also stated that if you invest in certain areas which are outside the urban areas, you do get some tax reliefs and get some rebates and get some incentives for doing so. Now, as to whether those incentives are attractive enough to allow for somebody to put his investment in some corner is another issue. There are issues of infrastructure, the road to the place, electricity, access to water, that you'd find in many distressed places that you wouldn't find in the urban areas. So the likelihood is that the investor will choose where it's easier for him to invest. Now, yes, Amazon, we are still talking. Bear in mind that we are competing with Kenya, South Africa, Egypt, and Rwanda. And so we have to offer them something attractive enough. Apart from the fact that the Ghana market is naturally, and our position is naturally attractive. We are in the middle of the world, and so logistics-wise, we are ideally situated. And we also have an economy that is growing fastest, as well as conditions which are attractive to investors. But we are still talking. But as you know, there are other companies that are looking to come to Ghana. For example, World Help. World Help is one of the biggest BPO, that's business processing organizations in the world today, and they are looking to situate their office in Ghana and start businesses from Ghana. There are quite a number of other technology companies looking at Ghana, and so we are still in talks with them, and hopefully they can come. The important thing is that we want to position Ghana as a hub for the sub-region and the entry point into the continent. And in doing so, we have to make the country attractive beyond what it is already. So we are working on it, and I'm getting some very positive news on that. Unfortunately, GIPC is not a funding agency, and so we do not provide funds for startups. what we do is to create an attractive investment environment and to sell the country and also to sell the investment opportunity to those who have money. But in our job, we also try to create partnerships between the local business environment and investors. And one of the reforms that we have proposed is to create something we call the responsible sustainable investors. And one of the criteria is you get incentives when you partner with local people to try and create a better environment for them. But quite recently, I'm sure you all heard of the Ghana Enterprise Agency, which is the agency that is actually set up to facilitate, startups, and there's also National Entrepreneurship, NEIP that does that. So unfortunately, we don't provide startup capital. What we can provide is a platform for partnerships and engagement. And we do not choose locations for investors. On the issue of land, it's one that sits on everybody's heart in this country. I can tell you personally, I paid for a plot of land 3 times. I don't even know whether I still own it, as I did. And we've had issues where big investors, and I'm sure many of you don't know, possibly we have one of the largest banana farms in the world, single banana farms in the world, in Ghana. And they want to expand. They've had problems and problems and problems with land guards, with local authorities. But here is a company that is going global and wants to expand further. We'd have assumed that it would be easy for us to embrace them. But those problems are there. And I dare say that this is one of the big challenges the government has taken upon itself to resolve this issue of land, first by digitally identifying every piece of land in Ghana. So as you know, the land addressing system identifies every 5 by 5 meter squared piece of land in Ghana, which I believe has been useful to Ghana Statistical Service. So we know where the lands are. Now the problem is to ensure that we have title on those lands. The intention is to separate ownership from usage, so it becomes easier, and people can use their lands as collateral for loans or for businesses, or partnership or equity for businesses. But it is a problem, and we are working hard to see how best we can resolve it. The land administration project went quite a number of ways to try and resolve it. We still have that. But there are still land cases of ownership where they've been in court for over 30 years. And so it's a difficult problem to crack, but we will solve it, because I know there is efforts to solve it. The digitalization is one starting point, and from there we'll look at the ownership problem as well.
Yofi, thank you for helping us resolve all of these issues. And as he hints there, there's a real conversation we need to have about our collective roles to onboard the investments. I'm sorry if I sound repetitive, but it is one thing the president traveling all over the world, trying to brand Ghana and sell Ghana, and GIPC detailing down the specific investment opportunities, and an investor saying that I'm committing $20 million to come and set up a project in Ghana. All of that is in one basket. When they come, it's another issue, the various value chain players assisting them to be onboarded. Those who are duping them on land, those who want something before they connect, whether it's some utility or the other, those who are just interested in frustrating the process, put something on the table, else we won't do this. That's a whole other conversation. That can even send 50% of the 20 million back to wherever it was intended to come from. But there's a real conversation we have to have on that front. The first part is, how much are you bringing in so far? And I think so far, those details have been made available to us. If I have UOF's permission to mention it, somewhere later in the year, we'll have a spark up conversation. It's a conversation on how to really spark up all of these investments that have been brought to our doorstep, some of which are hanging because we ourselves are delaying the processes, but that will be later. Now, we're talking about how much are we bringing in and how do we get the diaspora to participate. Mr. Grant, we are very grateful for that. And as you mentioned, the Ghana Enterprises Agency is the agency responsible for taking the lead in supporting the enterprise and the startup sub-segment. One other thing that we need to do is to talk a bit more seriously about the private equity space and how in Ghana we can have a private equity blossom. You know, a lot of people believe that if you want capital, go to a bank. But a bank is not in the business of giving you somebody's deposit as capital for your business. But there are institutions that specialize in that, private equity, etc. And we have to do some work there in addition to Ghana Enterprise Agency. We'll bring GA for them, and then maybe together with finance at some point, for them to help us have a conversation on that. And this is where we'll bring down the curtain on our press briefing this afternoon. I crave your indulgence. Of all the stories that you tell on Monday and Tuesday, please make time to tell the story of the investments and how we are trying hard to onboard some more, and the census, and in particular its benefit to you and my colleagues all over the country. We all have a part to play if these two activities are to succeed. Thank you, and wish you all the best.